Hi, everybody, and welcome to Teaching Tip Tuesday, brought to you by the Center for Inclusive Teaching and Learning here at UWSP. Creating a safe space for open exchange of thoughts in your classrooms is vital to learning. Part of the glory of college courses is being able to engage in discussions of sensitive and controversial topics with our students. Our goals as educators are to help students to develop critical thinking skills, interpersonal skills, and sensitivity to diverse perspectives. But what do you do when students say or do something that illustrates stereotypes, biases, or prejudice? These types of comments and behaviors are harmful in the classroom climate, especially for individuals who identify with the targeted group. But knowing how to respond in the moment can be difficult. An instructor has to consider the impact of the offending comment or behavior as well as the impact of their response, and doing that calculus on the fly rarely works out well. So this week, I'd like to talk to you about strategies to interrupt biased speech and behaviors. When students' behavior or speech illustrates prejudice, bias, or stereotypes, it's important for the instructor to respond in a manner that establishes boundaries, reestablishes safety, and instructs. Hesitation and uncertainty in your response will diminish its impact. Therefore, it's important to develop a toolkit, a pre-existing set of responses that are ready for you to deploy if you need them. What follows are 5 ideas for rapid response to offensive comments or behaviors in your classes. First, the zero tolerance response. Some offensive language and terms can be placed off limits by fiat. You are the boss of your classroom. So, for example, in the unlikely event that a student uses the R, B, C, or N word in your classroom, you can sternly tell them that it isn't allowed. Phrases like, "That isn't a word we use in my classroom," or "I find the word you used offensive and ask that you not use it," are perfectly acceptable in this situation. You can explain why if you want to, but by the time students get to college, they know why. It's more likely that in discussions, a student may say something touching on minoritized groups or individuals that sounds anywhere from insensitive to super bad, sexist, or racist. It's important to remember, though, to extend a bit of grace. That's why number 2 on this list is to ask for clarification. Words can be tricky, and extemporaneous speech can be full of errors. What comes out of one's mouth may not accurately reflect what one is trying to say. Asking for clarification can help distinguish prejudice, bias, and stereotypes from loose use of language and poor expression of a thought. Having phrases like, "Could you say more about what you mean by that?" and "I'm trying to understand. How have you come to think that?" can help you to troubleshoot a comment or behavior without making assumptions. It also allows students the opportunity to self-correct. Assuming that a comment or action does represent bias, prejudice, or stereotypes, it's important to model the type of behavior you'd rather see from the student. Recognizing the lived experience and misunderstandings of others helps to establish a relationship of trust and mutual respect, which can create greater openness to alternative perspectives. You can provide this recognition without endorsing the biased comment. Using phrases like, "I understand that you feel that way," or "If I had experienced that, I might have drawn a similar conclusion," before you provide an opposing perspective or conflicting information, softens the correction that you're giving so that the student doesn't feel negated or disrespected, even when you disagree with what they've said or done. Another strategy is to separate the intent of a comment or behavior from its effect. Microaggressions are a good example of instances where intent and effect are often at odds. Though one may mean to be helpful or kind, their words or actions may have the opposite effect, and we want students to learn how to do and say things in ways that are not harmful. But as we do that, we do need to make a distinction. Being a jerk intentionally isn't the same as accidentally being a jerk. Helping students separate intent and impact may allow gentle correction of jerky behavior without assuming jerky intent, making them more open to that correction. A good way to initiate this type of response is by making it clear that you don't think that the harm done was intentional. Saying things like, "I know you didn't realize this, but when you did whatever they did, it was hurtful or offensive for this reason." After that explanation, you can suggest a way that they could have achieved the actual intended result and avoided the harmful unintended consequences. Finally, when comments reflect stereotypes, it's important to challenge those stereotypes. Our social echo chambers often shield us from information that might challenge our assumptions. Providing different experiences, interpretations, and information is important. Remember, as always, the gentler gamester is the soonest winner. Rather than telling students that they're wrong, reframe their understanding. Phrases like, "another way to look at it is," or "in my experience, I found that," or "that isn't really accurate. In fact," all of these push back against the stereotype without the semblance of attack that would close the student's ears to the information that you're presenting. Developing strategies to challenge bias and stereotypes before you encounter them in your classroom will improve the inclusiveness of your classroom. And that's this week's teaching tip, brought to you by the Center for Inclusive Teaching and Learning here at UWSP, your one-stop shop for teaching support. Visit our website to schedule a consultation for help with course design, learning activities, assessment, or pedagogy.